Let's bring you some breaking news now coming to us from the Reuters news agency in Tenerife. And we are hearing in the last few minutes that the Spanish rescue teams have found human remains in the area where the British teenager Jay Slater went missing in Tenerife.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. It's actually interesting re-listening to that and sort of remembering that it was the Spanish authorities that found Jay Slater after this whole brouhaha that, you know, we need to get the experts in and they'll find Jay in a day. Ultimately, it was the local expertise that found him. Now, after flying, by the way, I'm in Tenerife right now, pretty worn out. After flying over Tenerife and touching down at the same airport that once welcomed Jay Slater, remember him, he was the unfortunate apprentice bricklayer from Lancashire. It's very easy to imagine what the 19-year-old was thinking and feeling. On the face of it, Tenerife is a playground. It's scenic, it's beautiful, it's really interesting, it's very unusual. But besides fun and games, or perhaps in spite of these, Tenerife is also a magical place with almost cosmic dimensions. Its sheer black-green encrusted cliffs shoot sheer out of a dreamy blue sea, especially on the northeast side of the island, which is where I am right now. I'll talk to you guys about that at some other point in more detail. The bulk of Mount Teide, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, Mount Teide, Tenerife's volcano, totally dominates the island. And when you're here, you really get a sense of it. That bulk is always looming over your shoulder in one direction or another. Even so, it's easy to lose orientation. The volcano at the center of the island is not only the highest point in Spain, but it's Earth's third tallest volcanic structure. So things here are kind of extreme in a way. And so this is the sort of landscape that one can imagine dinosaurs are still hiding out in, because it's muscular, it's foresty, it's lush, and it's full of mists. It's quite a haunting landscape at times, beautiful, as I've said, and apparently unfettered by the laws of gravity that tether the earth seemingly everywhere else. I mean, the mountains here just shoot up and down. And the cliffs all over, these sheer black cliffs, like curtains when you're driving. And what I mean is there's a spirit of fun, adventure, and possibility here, but in a much simpler sense, the world here is different to most other places. Gravity is a force to be reckoned with here in a way that's not like that in many other places. As I say, the slopes are sheerer, and distances, even on a seemingly compact planet floating in the Atlantic, easy to underestimate. That's certainly been the theme of my arrival here and today as well. Now, in addition, because it's Spain and because Spain has catered so specifically to the Brits in so many areas, it's easy to come here and imagine the world is your oyster. That's going to be simple, it's going to be fun, it's going to be just like fun fairy tale playground. Slip on the shades, have a drink, sign up for a fun package with your buds, and you're in paradise. Isn't that what Jay did? And so how come his fairy tale ended in such devastating tragedy? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. This is going to be a short mini-series of about 3 or 4 episodes. I am going to be taking you out and about, boots on the ground. We are going to go to Musca. I'm not quite there yet, but I am on the north side of the island at least. So if you're interested in that, you want to get out a little bit, well, come with me, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. I would appreciate you hitting the thanks button. I've actually just, anyway, I'm not even going to talk about it, but hitting the thanks button, I'd appreciate that, and let's get started. So, do you believe Jay Slater was murdered? If you do, put up your hand. If you do, leave a comment. Well, if you do, then I think the lesson from this case has been missed. And I hope you're going to pay attention to what I'm not as though I'm making a speech, just try and see where I'm coming from as I share information with you. Because I think it's important to learn this lesson. And if there's this perception all these months later that Jay Slater was murdered, guess what? It's not a murder investigation. There's no, the whole investigation to Jay Slater is gone. Even his parents aren't asking for anything, you know. So, you know, if there's this perception that life-threatening things only happen because of criminal intent, the only way that you can come to grief is because there's a criminal out there, well, then history is likely to repeat itself, specifically here. If you're going to come here and do similar things, if you're going to go out into nature and do similar things, history is likely to repeat itself. That's why it's important to learn the lesson. Because you know what, we underestimate the world and the natural world at our peril. And often when we are underestimating the world, we're overestimating ourselves. In this analysis, we re-examine the accident versus foul play theory. So I'm at the airport, Tenerife airport, and the one major difference between what I'm doing and what Jay did is I'm renting a car. And so obviously, in order to get around, I don't have to rely on the charity of strangers, and I don't need to catch a bus. And so that's one major change, one major difference in terms of how Jay kind of got himself into trouble, right? Now, I don't think I would have thought about it in such stark terms, this whole thing about, wow, you know, he didn't rent a vehicle, without being here and without going through the process myself. You know, having a car here means there's a certain amount of agency and independence, and Tenerife is definitely an island begging you to get over and around it. You know, you do want to move when you're here. You do want to see things. You do want to look over the next ridge. You do want to visit the next beach, the next enclave. And you can't just be in one space. You have to shoot and rocket around it to truly make the most of a trip here. In a way, you want to make a circuit of the whole island, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And the best way to do that isn't by bus, please. It's zipping around by car. But Jay likely simply couldn't afford to hire a vehicle. The cost of airfare for the apprentice bricklayer, along with the package holiday, drinks and accommodation, had likely tapped out most of his savings. It's even possible that Jay didn't have cash for the bus fare back to Los Cristianos. By the way, a bus in this part of the world is pronounced wawas. That's the name for buses in Tenerife. They are conditioned, I think that's air conditioned, they're green buses, and they're run by a company called Titsa. They operate across the entire island and are fairly cheap. It's a fairly cheap way to discover Tenerife, although they take a while to get around. You know, they kind of get snared in the narrow roads, and certainly I think quicker in a car. But without a car, your next best option is probably a bus. Visitors can purchase a Bono card priced between 12 euros and 25 euros, depending on the number of journeys. Sounds like it's not a lot. But I mean, who wouldn't be daunted by this 2-hour plus roundabout route, seemingly the long way around to get where he wanted to go? Have a look at this map. Now, I kind of have the same thing. I'm in the, how do you pronounce it? I'm in the Anaja region, north of Santa Cruz, and in order to go to Masca, it also wants me to go what seems to be the long way around all the way down to the south. You can't go over the top because of this volcano. You can't take a shortcut in that sense. So you've got to go all the way around, and I just don't want to go that way around because that's the way I came. So I'm going to end up going what looks like a shorter route, but it's actually slightly longer. Now, without a vehicle, Jay's options that morning when he woke up in Masca were already severely limited. You know, it may not seem possible getting lost, given the modern technologies that facilitate modern life, given the apparent simplicity of it's just an island, it's just a small space. How hard could it be? But just a few things need to happen for something to go haywire. And from there, once you're in lost mode, well, then you've got to deal with anxiety, you're jittery, you're scatterbrained, you're nervous, you're jumpy. And bear in mind, it's beyond that, Jay was sleep deprived and possibly even hungover. And then the odds of getting even more lost and making mistakes and then exacerbating those mistakes just become not so much a possibility or even a probability, but a certainty. And from there, you step off the road. Well, then an accident, it's not really an accident because it's a self-inflicted accident. It's something that you made a decision and these are the consequences of that. It's basically an inevitable incident or, very serious issue that may involve an injury. And this is then not due to a criminal. It's simply because the odds are ever present and pretty high against you if you're going to persist in a particular course of action. Does that make sense? Now, it all starts with being in unfamiliar territory first and foremost, and secondly, having minimal resources at your disposal. In Jay Slater's case, that crucial missing resource was his own transport. But there's another resource that could have been seriously beneficial that he couldn't use during his crisis. Anyone remember what that was? Of course, getting lost in an unfamiliar area is one thing. Getting lost in an unfamiliar area in a remote area where everything is vast, certainly vaster than you think, and extremely asymmetrical and kind of unnatural in the way that these volcanic landscapes simply are. There are just not so many straight lines to get anywhere. Well, in a vehicle, it may be a tedious but relatively simple matter to undo. Just turn the steering, try driving the other way, right? But get lost in a natural setting like this without a machine to deal with the forces of gravity, without a machine to figure out your mistakes, without a machine to guide you across the unusual cosmic musculature of essentially the feet of one of this planet's tallest volcanoes. Well, it's not so difficult for danger with a capital D to begin to poke its way through the fabric. And it did for Jay, didn't it? I'm not going to take it further than that, but just on a little bit of a personal note, believe it or not, I got horribly lost in the first few hours after receiving my rental vehicle. Anyone have any idea how that happened? So I first landed in Tenerife, and then I ended up getting lost. How was that compounded? Any guesses how? I'm not proud of getting lost on my first day in Tenerife, but I'll be showing you how that happened, where and why, and most pertinently, in what ways that has a bearing on the Jay Slater case in the next analysis. If you've enjoyed this video, if you're enjoying some of these unusual sights and sounds, just getting out into the real world, then, you're probably going to want to watch the next one. There'll just be a lot more of that sort of content, especially from this area. Anach, it's quite amazing, quite interesting, but also kind of quite treacherous. If anything, the lesson from all of this is, I think, how to deal critically with a crisis while you're in one. And especially if you are the cause, the origin of your own crisis. And before you get all judgy, this isn't about judging Jay. This is about how to be better at dealing with possibly a mistake you've made or I've made, and how to deal with it when you're in one so that you can start heading in the right direction. Don't persist and make it even worse. Does that make sense? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.